Hello and good afternoon or evening or whatever time of day you're watching this. We're recording this at a very strange hour. And welcome to the sixth episode of the Rangers Gameplan podcast, where we discuss the week that was in the New York Rangers, where we talk about Game 1 and Game 2 of the Eastern Conference quarterfinals, where the Rangers kind of shock a lot of people and take a pretty dominating 2-0 series lead.
Yeah, that was there's no way anybody expected that. For the past few weeks, I even said it the last time. I was okay with them slacking off in the regular season since they thought that they would be able to play like this in the playoffs, and they have. If they came out and completely laid an egg, or even if they won games 1 and 2 like really narrowly and they didn't really play that well, then I'd still be a little iffy about it. But it seems like their plan has been working all along here, because they look phenomenal right now.
I've been completely blown away from the first two games they've played, because I was with you. I thought, all right, their plan is to kind of ease their way into it and just get there healthy. But if you come in and you don't absolutely light your opponent on fire, what was the point of it all? They've come out, and
especially because of the fact that there's some new guys in the forward group, and the lines were mixed around a lot before the playoffs start. So I was sitting there like, if you guys want to slack off until the playoffs, like, it is what it is. But I expected them to look really rusty, because if you weren't going to be trying that whole time and you barely had chemistry with each other, then I wouldn't expect, 2 5-1 wins in a playoff series to start it off. But they have, so I guess we just got to roll with it. I expected the Devils to win on Thursday. I really did, and we'll talk about some decisions on their end that definitely didn't make any sense from that game. But I expected them to win not only game 1, but after that, especially game 2. And they got rinsed in both of them. And, we have game 3 tonight, and we'll see what happens. You're back at home. You would really love to win this one, and hopefully convincingly, just like the other two. Mm-hmm. But who knows? You just don't want to give them room to breathe. The Devils have been great on the road all season, and they've also been great at comebacks all season. So just kind of got to weather the storm a little bit against them.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say it, and you already brought it up, where there was a lot of players on lines that didn't necessarily have chemistry yet. The two guys that you brought in at the deadline maybe have been your two best forwards outside of Chris Kreider, but
oh my god, it's insane.
But Tarasenko scored in both games. Kane had a fine, unnoticeable game 1 and looked as vintage as it gets in game 2. He looked incredible. He had a couple of primary assists, if I'm not mistaken, and had that just filthy goal on dressing Vanacek.
Yeah, that was beautiful to watch.
They've come in, and again, it's not just that these are two solid wins. They're not even great wins. These are two outright domination. You ran them off the ice in both games. I don't recall having one game that was maybe game 1 against Tampa last year in the Eastern Finals. But I don't recall one game outside of that one being as dominant as either one of these has been in your entire playoff run last year, let alone in back-to-back games.
Yeah, and I think the biggest standout to me is how well they're playing defensively right now. It seems like they have a completely different defensive scheme right now than they did in the regular season. Like they look like they're playing a different style right now. And I think my biggest takeaway from the past 2 games is, these are 2 of the most dominating wins we've seen from this group. And I can identify probably half the team that could be playing better than they currently are. Mm-hmm. That's not, a slight against anybody. It just goes to show, like, they're dominating the Devils right now, and Zibanejad hasn't even scored yet. Panarin hasn't gotten going yet. Like, this is, the fact that they've shown that they can play like this twice is huge for this team. Because like I said, even if they were up 2-0 and they won, both the games narrowly and they didn't really play that great, we would still be very happy. But we wouldn't feel as confident as we are right now.
No.
Igor has looked amazing.
Has
and
not been beaten 5-on-5.
And I mean, a lot of credit has to go to the team in front of him right now, because the penalty kill has been awesome, and they haven't let the Devils' top players get going yet. But he's made some outstanding saves regardless. It's not like he's been bored back there or anything like that. The few quality chances that the Devils have gotten so far, he's completely shut the door. And this past month and a half, he's been lights out, and it's just carried over into the series so far. And I mean, if he keeps it up, I seriously don't know who could beat this team right now. Obviously, it's 2 games, and we don't want to get ahead of ourselves too much, but I mean, you have to think if they beat the Devils convincingly, in 4 or 5 games, and then they have to go and play Carolina, who we're confident against, and or the Islanders, it just looks like a pretty clear path until you probably have to play Boston, however it shakes out on the other side of the bracket. But I mean, like I said, the fact that they've shown that they could play this lights out is a huge step for this team, because if they, like I said before, if they slacked off all, the regular season, assuming that they could just flip the switch and play like this soon as the playoffs started, and then they didn't, then I'd be concerned. But the fact that they're just the sheer confidence of this team right now is just something I've never seen before.
I wanted to mention, because you talked about the defense being good in front of them, they have held the Devils to under 30 shots in both of the first 2 games. The last game the Devils didn't get over 30 shots was a 4-1 loss to Tampa on March 14th. That was the last time they didn't get 30 shots in a game.
Wow, that's crazy.
They've gone over a month with getting 30 shots per game. The defense has been as good as I've ever watched them play. And again, Shesterkin's had to make some solid saves. He has. And even on top of that, the fact that the only 2 times the Devils have beaten him were on a penalty shot that I still am kind of upset about, because it took away his sweet, sweet shutout. And the power play in game 1.
That was not even really his fault. That's just, goals like that happen every once in a while. But I mean, it's just like the Devils are clearly very frustrated right now, because they can't get much going. And on top of that, the few times that they do get a grade A scoring chance, Igor just shuts the door. Like I said, I expect them to win a game, the Devils, but like it's just been unreal what we've seen so far.
I wanted to mention, because you bring up they're clearly frustrated, what I have been most impressed by, the Rangers have not bit on any of the bait they've put out there late in the games, trying to get a rise out of. They're just completely relaxed. They're laughing at them. They're laughing in their face. They're not going for any of it.
And I think that, mixed with the way this team is answering questions in the postgame, those 2 things make me more confident than anything else. Because they, when the media talks to them after the game, they have not sounded excited or happy with themselves for a single second. They all they do is talk about what they could do better, and they just dominated for them for 2 games. And all they're talking about is, well, we could be better at this, and this. Like, that is, I think that's a huge step forward, because I mean, obviously we had a deep run in the playoffs last year, but in the post game they seemed a little bit more relaxed than they are right now. This team seems laser focused, and I think that makes me more confident than anything else. If they were, I'm not saying you shouldn't smile or anything in the post game, but they literally haven't cracked a smile, any of the players, and that just goes to show how badly they want this. And like you were saying, they are laughing at them right now. I mean, late in the game, Trouba was behind Igor with the puck, and he was actively I don't know what he was saying, but he was chirping Dawson Mercer for like 10 seconds straight and just doing a bunch of shoulder fakes at him and laughing while he's doing it. And I think I just don't know how you couldn't feel confident in this team after they're doing things like that, because these teams obviously at the end of game 2 there seemed to, things seemed to heat up a little bit, but I don't know. They just have been completely unfazed this whole, the past 2 games and in the post game and everything like that. It's just it just feels so different from last year, because I feel like at points in the playoffs last year, after they won a game, they, the way they answered questions was more the whole vibe around the team was more so kind of feeling like we shouldn't even be here right now and look at what we're doing. That's kind of how they answered questions, and that's kind of how, the fans viewed it and everything like that. But right now, all they talk about is just being the last team standing and what they could do better and everything like that. It's just a completely different atmosphere from the players specifically this year.
I think you kind of hit it right on the head there, and I'll use an analogy that I thought of just like 2 seconds ago. The difference is last year they felt they were on house money. Like they found someone else's credit card and just wanted to piss around. This year they got it all themselves. They understand that a lot of the pieces that are here currently, maybe because they're rentals, free agents, what have you, are probably not going to be here next year. And also some core pieces, probably mainly Kreider's a little bit older. You don't know how many more chances you're going to have with a team constructed like this.
Yeah.
Because it just does not happen. Like the cap backflips that Chris Drury did to somehow get Tarasenko and Kane in the same deadline. That doesn't happen.
And not only is it not going to happen again, there won't be another opportunity for that to happen again. For you to have 2 perennial longtime superstars become available for cheap like that on 1-year deals, it's not going to happen. Obviously, every playoff team makes moves at the deadline, but it's very, very rare that you have a player like Patrick Kane force himself to only your team. That's not going to happen every year. And, this is a somewhat young team, but there's a lot of guys that are getting up there somewhat. So it's not like the window is wide open. And I think they know that. And last year they got a taste of it, and you could really tell how much it hurt them to get eliminated last year. I mean, Kreider was bawling his eyes out in the exit interviews, saying, talking about basically how when Tampa got eliminated, that it created a monster, and that's what they want to be. And it just seems like they just really, really want this more than anything, and they won't settle for anything else, because how could you not look around that locker room and realize that you have one of the best rosters in the modern era? Like, obviously it's not like Patrick Kane and Tarasenko are in their prime anymore, but they're built for these moments, and they're going to score big goals, which they have already, and we're 2 games in. Yeah, and I think the main thing that I'm really kind of starstruck by is just, every Rangers playoff team, like I said, every team that's in contention is going to bring someone in at the deadline. But this is the first time that you have game changers. And, with that being said, obviously I just said they're not in their prime anymore, but they do have completely game-changing attributes to their play style that we've already seen. I mean, Tarasenko's shot is one of the best ever. And he's already scored 2 goals. And when you have players like that add on to your already stacked roster, it's really tough to defend. And I think going back to, obviously before the series, we all thought I still think that it obviously has the potential to be a close series, but at this point, it's just like, how do you let them crawl back into this? I mean, they don't have basically any experience. The Schmid, who they're starting tonight, is about to play his first NHL playoff game in Madison Square Garden, down 2-0 against, like I said, one of the best rosters ever constructed on paper. And if you let them crawl back into this, that kind of just completely washes away everything I've been saying about how how taken away I am by their focus, because if you're going to be this locked in, you just dominated them for 2 games, and all you're talking about is how you're not satisfied and everything, then you have to shut the door at home.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the best possible start you could have asked for in this series.
And that's the thing. It's as perfect as you could get, and I really struggle looking through those 2 games to find, outside of a few mistakes here and there, nothing overarching for the entire game that I could really pick at. The Devils got, again, it was smothering the first game. The second game, I thought the Devils played an all-right first 12 minutes and then kind of fell off. And now, you're bringing in Schmid, if you're the Devils, to start Game 3, which is... I mean, look, I understand that Vanacek has been hot garbage through 2 games. That's not lost on me. But that's still the guy that you rode to the playoffs this year. And to, after 2 games, throw in the towel on that seems kind of surprising. And to have Schmid, who has 24 career NHL games played, have a first career playoff start against a Rangers team that maybe is at an all-time high in confidence. Since, God, I don't know when they've looked and felt this good in Madison.
Yeah.
It's not even a matter of, if the Rangers get the first... If the Rangers get the first shot, if they get the first good open ice hit, the building is going to explode.
It's going to go bonkers, Yeah, I mean, obviously, the series isn't over.
No.
And obviously, we don't want to say anything to jinx ourselves or whatever, but I'm just not understanding these lineup changes from Lindy Ruff and the Devils. I'm really just mind blown by them. Not only are you asking a guy to make his playoff debut in the worst possible situation you could ask him to do that, but they changed every single combination, every line combination. And I mean, if I were them, I don't think it's a matter of the line combinations. It's just like internally, your guys have to do more. And as great as the Rangers have played, it's just, I mean, a lot of their top players have been completely unnoticeable in these first 2 games. And that is shocking to me. But it's just, the Rangers have done a great job of just shutting down what the Devils are good at. Because when you look at it, throughout the season, the Devils have been great in the neutral zone transitioning, and they're obviously a very fast breakout team. The Rangers haven't gotten beat by it in these first 2 games, and if they keep playing like that, the Devils don't have that playoff style makeup to their lineup to score any other way. They're going to score goals, flying up and down the ice and making you look stupid if you let them. And the Rangers, every time Hughes is moving the puck up the ice, they have 2 or 3 guys back every single time. And the only, mistakes the Rangers have really made have just been, maybe leaving a guy open in their own end here and there, and then it's a wide open shot and Igor shut the door. So if Igor's feeling that good right now, and at least that if you're only going to give up maybe like 1 or 2 quality chances a period, that he's going to save them easily. Like, I just don't know how this Devils team can score any other way. Obviously, they've had a great regular season, but it's been a lot of highlight reel goals and blowing teams out. And I think the one thing that scared me a little bit going into this series is they were 4th on the penalty kill going into the playoffs. And the penalty kill stat in the regular season is skewed because you're playing a lot of times teams that have no chance of getting into the playoffs. So when your penalty kill has to go up against a playoff team every other night, your percentage on the penalty kill, power play, your entire special teams unit is gonna look way different. And obviously the playoff experience, I'm not that sold that it's completely the biggest difference maker, but it's definitely shown a lot with this series specifically, because obviously last year they beat Pittsburgh and they were the less experienced team, but you could just tell that the Rangers last year, in doing that, they still had a few veteran guys that have been there and done it before. The Devils have like 2, and they aren't even huge parts of their team. Like, at least when the Rangers were in the playoffs last year, Kreider's been in the league forever. He had many, many, many deep playoff runs with the Rangers. Zibanejad's been in the playoffs. They had a bunch of guys that have done it. The Devils, they have Palat. I think Eric Howla's been in it a couple times, but he's been on. You know what I'm saying?
You're forgetting longtime veteran Brennan Smith.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that, like, he's gonna play again in Game 3. I'm pretty sure, and I just don't get it. I don't see how they think he has a spot in this series. Like, you could go to maybe he's familiar with the Rangers, but he's just not a good player, guys. I don't know how else to say it. By the way, in Game 2, they scratched Siegenthaler, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if he's going to be on the top pair tonight. And obviously, I mean, from the Devils fan perspective, they were not completely up in arms about it because apparently he hasn't been good for a little while now. Like that for the past month or so of the season, and in Game 1, he wasn't phenomenal. But how can you take a guy like that out of your lineup? That's literally like if the Rangers scratch Lindgren. That's the exact same thing. And I didn't understand that. And obviously they still won 5-1 in Game 1 while Siegenthaler was playing. But how can you make a move like that after one game? And going to the goalie conversation, how can you I don't want to say anything that's going to come back to bite us, but I wouldn't be saying things like this if I was in the slightest bit unconfident about this team, because you're asking a guy that's just now getting his first taste of playoff hockey to beat Igor Shesterkin 4 times before he wins 2.
Yeah.
While he's playing the way he is right now. And like I said, I don't want to say anything to jinx us, but if Schmid outplays Shesterkin for the rest of the series, I might as well just stop watching hockey because that would be unreal if that happens. And I mean, let's say Schmid doesn't have the best, game tonight, and let's say you pull him or he gives up 4 or 5. Are you going to go to Blackwood or are you going to go to Vanacek again, who you just destroyed his confidence even more? He just gave up 9 goals.
Yeah.
And then you sit him, and you're going to either ask him to go in again or you go to Blackwood, who has not been great this season. So I just don't understand it from their perspective, because at least even if obviously, Vanacek got lit up in the first 2 games, but you got to at least give him the chance to flip the page. You just have to.
I mean, in a series that is, for the Devils, very similar, I feel, to what the Rangers were last year, where you it's your first year. If you don't make a super deep run, it's okay. You have a lot of time left on that table. How could you not just ride Vanacek out, even if he's giving up 5 goals a game? You have to just see where you go with that.
There's definitely been a few he's given up that were very bad goals, but at the end of the day, the bulk of them have been pretty unbelievable shots.
I mean, the 4 Kreider tips.
What do you do about that? That's not his fault. And
like,
the one thing I will say, it's like, if you're the Devils, how do you stop the Rangers power play right now?
Oh my God.
I mean, genuinely, because I think in this game tonight, they are going to probably throw like at least 1 or 2 bodies on Kreider, and then you leave Adam Fox, Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, and Patrick Kane open.
Yeah.
So what do you do? I think while they're going through their game plan for the penalty kill, they know that, so that ruins their confidence as well, because if you're already, I think the Rangers scored on 4 of 10 power plays in the series.
Yeah, they're
so when you're looking at that
40%.
It's a 40%, and you're already unconfident in yourself based on just that percentage. And then you're going through the film and you're trying to figure out a way to stop them, and you realize just how many guys you have to prevent from creating an opportunity. And like I said, I think they're just going to completely hone in on stopping Kreider, but that's going to come back to bite them. Because in the first 2 games, it seems like they were trying to force the Rangers to shoot it up the middle of the ice on the power play, and Chris Kreider is the best net front guy in the league, and that's bit them in the ass. And now they have to completely change that strategy and give up one-timers all night. So like I said, I wouldn't be this confident if I just don't see how the Rangers could lose the series at this point.
Well, I mean,
and if the Rangers do, it's going to be because they shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Like that you know what I'm saying? Because when you look at the two lineups, the Devils don't even know what lineup they're gonna. It's currently 5:00, and they don't really exactly know what their lineup is gonna look like in 3 hours from now. And they have a goalie who's never been in this situation before. And like I said, if you lose this series, it's a complete indictment on yourself. It's not a matter of you getting outmatched by the opponent.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the Rangers' fault if they lose this series. I'm not trying to sit here and act like the Devils are a bad team, but you have the experience, you have the deeper lineup, you have the better goalie by a long shot. It's not even a debate.
Especially tonight.
Yeah, like the only edge the Devils had was home ice, and now they're down 0-2. And they have to go to the Garden. So their edge is gone in this series. So like I said, if you lose this, it's on you. It's not a matter of you getting outmatched and you have to tip your cap. That's not the case here.
You hit it right on the head where you bring up Madison Square Garden, because I was about to touch on that. People, Devils fans, want to say, oh, Rangers are feeling confident. They were up 0-2 or 2-0 last year in the Eastern Final, and they lost that series in 4 in a row. There's so many differences between the way they went up 2-0 against Tampa and the way they've gone up 2-0
There's so many variables.
Like,
There's so many variables.
Like, yes, the Rangers dominated the first game of that series, like 6-2. But I just looked it up. The Lightning in that 6-2 loss still had 39 shots.
Yeah.
And a lot of those were high danger. Like, Tampa lost both of those games. The second game was a 1-goal loss. The first one, yeah, it was 4 goals. You way outshot the Rangers. The Devils have, and I'm not trying to dunk on them. They had a great regular season. The Devils have nothing after 2 games to hang your hat on and say, well, at least we did this right. They have nothing. They have stopped.
Absolutely nothing.
You've held the Rangers' fourth line to no goals, but that's it. Every other line has scored. The power play for the Rangers has been damn near unstoppable. The penalty kill. I'm not saying, genuinely, have the Devils gotten a shot yet while on the power play?
I think so, but it hasn't. I think they've gotten like 2 or 3, but they haven't been clean. And obviously, the 1 goal is just squeaked through Igor, and that's all it was. It's not like they've had anything of substance on these power plays. They just haven't.
The Devils, through 2 games, I just looked it up, have 4 total shots on net on the power play.
Yeah, that's.
The Rangers have 4 power play goals in that time. Yeah,
that's just insane. While we're going through this, I decided to just go ahead and pull the Devils lineup up from this morning. So, Timo Meier is back on the 3rd line. Okay. So they have Palat, Hischier, and Bratt on the first line, which I don't think has been a combination for them yet. And Palat hasn't scored a goal since like March. So like I said, he's not one of the key players on your team, and he's been on a huge cold streak. Like I said, obviously, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. It's been 2 games, but like I keep saying, if the Rangers are going to lose this series, it's going to be on them, because you've taken away their edge, which was home ice. And after that, they have nothing. They are so rattled right now, and obviously they've been a great road team, but it's a completely different ballgame right now. And like you mentioned before, obviously the Rangers blew a 2-0 lead in the same calendar year right now. But as we just went over, it's completely different. The Rangers were a much, much worse team last year, and Tampa had the edge in every possible aspect, pretty much. I mean, and another thing, the Devils don't have a goalie like Vasilevsky that could just randomly shut you out at any moment. They don't have that. So it's a completely different situation right now. Obviously, they were a great team in the regular season, but as of right now, it just doesn't seem like they have the recipe within themselves and within their lineup to do anything in the playoffs. Because, I mean, if you're going to scratch your best defensive defenseman, who hasn't even been playing well, apparently, for the past month or so, that ruins his confidence even more. And to my understanding, they are just in complete shambles right now, and you can see that by the way this lineup is being put together for them, because they're trying everything that they haven't tried before. Like they have already hit the panic button. You already switched your goalie. You've already moved every possible piece in your lineup around. The panic button has already been hit for them. And obviously it's very strange to say game 3 is a must win while you're up 2-0, but this completely shuts the door if you win this game.
Yeah.
Even if, let's say you win it in overtime, it doesn't matter. You just have to win the game, and that ruins all of their confidence. They're probably going to make another goalie change if you win tonight, and they're probably going to scratch this guy, here and there, whatever, throughout their lineup. So it's just, I don't know. I keep saying it, like, you just can't shoot yourself in the foot here. This is your series to lose right now. You cannot give them any breathing room. So we'll see how this shakes out. Obviously, the world isn't over if they lose tonight, but I just don't see any excuse for them losing game 3.
I gotta bring it up because you mentioned the change on the first line. You're gonna have Andre Palat match up with Patrick Kane. That's the decision they have made. That's and sure about that, New Jersey. He's
been super underwhelming for them as well. Like Palat, obviously he's won championships, but he's never really been a key piece to those Tampa teams. Obviously, he scored big goals. Not trying to take anything away from him, but he didn't have to carry the load as much as he's being asked to right now. I mean, he's being asked to slide into the first line down 2-0 against players that are better than him. And he's already on a cold streak. Like I said, their confidence is completely shot right now. And to go back on it, we even said it in the preview in the last episode. The Rangers are deeper in every single way possible. When you just look at both lineups on paper, every single Rangers line is better. And I don't think it's close. I don't think it's remotely close. Obviously, Hughes is the main scary piece on that team, but he's not even on the first line. And he's matched up against Trocheck, who is hell to play against in the playoffs. And he's shown that so far. Obviously, he hasn't scored or really been a game changer for us, but he's done everything that you really want him to, which is just be difficult to play against and don't let his foot off the gas, because every time he's on the ice, he's going immediately to the corners and winning puck battles. So it's really tough. It's tough for me to believe that this series goes more than 5. It really does.
I'll say it as a praise for him. I don't think there's a player on this team who currently has 0 points who's played better than Trocheck. He has just been such a pain in the ass for them through 2 games. It's incredible. And he loves it. That smug look on his face when there's like rough stuff in the corner, and he just comes out of it like, yes, I've done my purpose in life.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about their confidence real quick for the Devils. It's so shattered at this point. If anything happens, if they give the Rangers an inch in this game, they're going to take a mile. Because it's hanging on by a sliver, by a singular thread for the Devils. That if the Rangers get one thing to work with, it's done. Like, they were even able to score first in game 2, and then the Rangers regroup, come out in the third, 3 goals, or second, 3 goals.
Yeah, and I think I was just kind of thinking about this a little bit. Like you said, if you give the Rangers an inch right now, they're going to take a mile. And I think on the flip side, the only way the Devils are really going to climb back in this series is if you just completely break down defensively. Because like I was saying before, the way they're going to score goals is fast off the rush, and it's going to be a pretty goal more often than not. And the Rangers have gotten back defensively every single time 5-on-5. Like, they have not gotten beat off the rush once so far in this series. And for enough of a momentum change to happen for the Devils, they're going to have to beat the Rangers up and down the ice for multiple times for multiple goals. And with the way Igor is playing and with the way the defense is locking this down right now, I cannot see that happening. There's just so many things that I am so beyond confident in this team right now because, like I said, every time the Devils try to break out and they try to get an odd man rush, the Rangers shut it down immediately. So the key to this series right now is just, I guess, don't let Jack Hughes get 7 breakaways a game. And obviously, I'm not trying to sit here and act like the Rangers have the best defense of all time, but I can't see them doing that. I just can't. The way this is, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is the most structured defensive team that Gallant's ever had his guys play. Like I've never seen this much structure and just pure lockdown defense from this team with him as the coach. So there's a lot of credit that has to go to him because this team looks so beyond prepared for this matchup. It looks like they just sat there for weeks on end and just watched film on the Devils. That's what it looks like right now. They look like they can't be any more prepared than they are right now. And like I said, the only way you're going to let them back in this series is if you just let them get quality chance after quality chance. And with the way this defense is playing, I just can't see them doing that at home. I just can't see it.
I think it also boils down to the Rangers would have to shoot themselves so badly in the foot. But on top of that, the Devils would have to play, for the remainder of it, as close to perfect hockey as possible.
Yeah.
Because, and again, maybe I'm putting too much stock in a crowd or the team's confidence of one play. Even if you give up that breakaway to Hughes, if that's a save, it's done.
Yeah, it's.
If he were to get a breakaway on the first shift tonight, and it's a stop, whether it's a simple just pad save and he doesn't get anything on it, or if it's a glove, if it banks off his own head because Hughes missed on the shot, it's over.
The
Rangers would have
the roof's gonna blow off the building.
The roof blows off. The bench for the Rangers lights up, and if you're the Devils, you go, "That's our best player," and he couldn't do it. He had him. It was breakaway, dead to rights, couldn't do it. How are we to do that?
And
you would have to play perfectly. If you're
and I think the one thing that I was thinking about after game 2, like immediately after, but I haven't mentioned it yet. The first 2 games were, what's the best way of putting this? Those are the matchups that Lindy Ruff wanted for the line matchups because the home team gets the last change. So once he sees the Rangers, once he sees whatever line the Rangers put out, he gets to pick and choose which line he wants to put out there against them. He doesn't have that anymore. So when you get dominated like that, when you're hand-picking your matchups, that's just another thing where if the Rangers lose this series, it's going to be the biggest collapse I've ever seen because you just went into their building and dominated them like that while you were the other team was actively putting what they thought the best matchup was line by line against you. And now they don't even have that. So like I would be shocked if the Rangers go, like I said, go more than 5 in this series. It would just be mind blowing to me if that happens.
That had completely just left my mind. But holy shit, they've got exactly what they want. They can hand pick who you put up against who, and they've gotten eaten alive.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said before, Zibanejad and Panarin haven't really gotten going yet. And maybe you could point to the fact that like maybe Lindy Ruff was able to match up somewhat well against them 5v5. Not to say that they've been non-factors. They both made some great plays here and there, but they don't have that anymore. So now that you can put them against whoever you want to, I expect Panarin and Mika to light it up in these next 2 games because there's no way that Gallant is going to put them out there against anyone other than the 3rd and 4th line. So it's and not only that, but we have seen firsthand how frustrating it is to try completely different line combinations against good teams. Because Gallant loved doing that in the regular season, and we've talked about that every single episode so far. And when you're trying to gain chemistry in the middle of a hockey game with a line that you've never played on before, it's very difficult. So, like I said, I'm not trying to get too ahead of ourselves and act like they're not going to lose a game in the playoffs or anything like that. The Devils are obviously a very talented team. They're third in the league for a reason. But if you lose more than one game, that's very disappointing to me, considering everything that's happened so far and considering that the tide has completely turned in your favor. Completely. And the team you're playing against is rattled, and they're inexperienced, and the veteran presence that they do have on that team are not key players on the team. It's completely different when the only, veterans you have on the team are your number one center and your number one D-man. That's completely different, because you've seen that with the Penguins, where they could pretty much throw whoever they wanted on that roster, and they just had three guys that have been there, done that a million times, and they figured out a way. The Devils don't have that. Their key players on this team could not be any less confident. They could not be any more rattled. And the only veterans they have on the team to bring them down for that have gotten completely rinsed off in this series and have been pretty much unnoticeable the entire time, just like everyone else on the team.
Yeah.
So, like I've said a million times, I'm not trying to sit here and act like the Rangers are not going to lose a game. And I do expect the Devils to win a game here, maybe, and at least make one of these pretty close. But that's mainly just me trying to not jinx anything. At this moment in time, I don't see how you can let them breathe. Like they like I said, the panic button has been hit for them. So just go for the kill.
Yeah. I would also say the devastation from last year for the team that you could totally see. Also the fact, the last time they played the way they have the past two games was game 1, when they wanted to not simply embarrass the Lightning, but salt their earth. Yeah. It's abundantly clear that from last year to this year, they picked up that killer instinct that they did not have against Tampa. Yeah. And I just don't think... I could be wrong, but good Lord. Nothing has worked for them. Even that fight attempt by McLeod and Schneider.
They literally haven't won anything so far. They like you said before, they have nothing to hang their hat on right now. And the one thing I will touch on a little bit, obviously the theme of this team the whole regular season is they just wanted to get back to the playoffs. And the one thing that they have seemed to learn from losing to Tampa is how gassed they were, because after those two games, Tampa completely adjusted, and they adjusted to the Rangers' cross-ice passing, and the Rangers were too tired to score any other way. So they don't want that to happen again, which is why they slacked off a lot in the regular season. And with that being said, the reason the Rangers were so gassed against Tampa was because they just had two complete bloodbath Game 7 series back-to-back. Mm-hmm. So with all that being said, do not let the Devils crawl back into this. You want to find a way to close the series out quickly so you can rest your guys up a little bit. The playoffs is a very long, tiring stretch of hockey, and if you have a couple Game 7s, you are automatically gassed. So find a way to finish this in 4 or 5, because that I think is the main thing that they have probably talked about internally is we got to find a way to close series out quicker so we could have at least a couple days off. Mm-hmm. Because if the Rangers play either the Hurricanes or the Islanders, you feel confident whichever way that matchup ends up being. You feel even more confident if you have 3 or 4 days rest and the team you're playing against just came off a Game 7. Yeah. So that changes everything. So like I said a little bit earlier, it's very strange to call Game 3 a must-win when you're up 2-0. But, come on now. if everything they've been talking about, obviously closing series out quicker, not being as tired and all that, in the playoffs, that comes to fruition right now if you find a way to just go for the kill at home and just sweep them, or at least win in 5. This cannot go 6. It just can't.
No. And oh God forbid if we have to talk about a Game 7.
Oh my God! Like if this goes 7, then I don't feel confident in this team winning the whole thing.
If this somehow were to go 7,
be weird to say.
No, if this were to somehow go 7, the injury list had better be longer than my sleeve. Like it.
Yeah.
Unless
it's
something
got
catastrophic happens, and I hope to God it doesn't. But there is no way. And again, you have to just go off of the 2 playoff games. There has been nothing to say that it shouldn't end in 4. I'm not even going to say 5. Because neither of these have been... Again, they're not close. And it's not last year where there were, multiple games where you're getting multiple empty netters. You have 1 empty net goal in the first 2. It's not even that... it was 3-1, but then they had 2 empty nets in the last, 3 minutes when they were trying to tie it back. No. It is the most complete domination that I have witnessed with the Rangers. Really one of the most I've witnessed, period. If you were trying to show beating a team on every single level, you would look up the film for either game 1 or 2. It is as perfect as it can get without being a simulation.
And the one thing that I will say as well, obviously, like I said before, the Rangers weren't able to, choose their line matchups the past 2 games. And with that being said, they haven't let the Devils' top guys do anything. And they haven't even been able to actually purposefully match up against guys like Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt and all those guys. They haven't been able to put who they intentionally want out there to stop them, and they've completely shut them down. So you're at home and you get to put whoever you think is going to match up best against whatever Devils line. You cannot let their top guys take over these games, because you weren't allowing them to have any breathing room without being able to perfectly match up against them in the first 2. Now you can. So that there's just a laundry list of things that make me unbelievably confident right now. And normally I would be terrified about jinxing anything and all that. But like I said, if the Rangers find a way to lose this, it's going to be on them. And it's just a complete meltdown on their end. Because like I said earlier, the Devils have no edge in this series right now. Their edge is gone. They're not at home anymore, and the Rangers have a much, much, much deeper team. And I think the main takeaway from the first 2 games would be that the Rangers are the deeper team by far. And, we touched on that in the preview to begin with, but it's really showing right now, because the Devils are frustrated and they can't get anything going. And it's because every line the Rangers have is just... It seems like every spot in the lineup for the Rangers, they have a guy that's tailor-made for that spot. Mm-hmm. That's just how it seems. And that's how it looks on paper. And it's just all coming together at the right time right now. And, hopefully everything we're saying right now doesn't get completely flipped around.
Oh, God.
That's my main, point here is... I would normally be terrified of saying the wrong thing, but I just don't see how they lose this series. I have no clue. Obviously, if you're a Devils fan, you're going to be confident and you're going to be saying, oh, this team's been great on the road all year, everything like that. But they have nothing right now. Everyone other than Devils fans feels like this is over. And everything we've been saying about, closing the series out quicker, that just has to happen. If it goes 5, that's a disappointment. It is, but it's not the end of the world if it goes 5, but you have to close this out. That would be a complete statement for everyone else in the league. That would show you that you are the team to beat, maybe more so than the Boston Bruins, because you automatically emerge as the team to take them out. And it's just like I keep saying, I just couldn't feel any more confident in this team right now. I just the way they've played and the way that everything is trending right now, it would just be a complete shock if this goes any more than 4 or 5. It's just I can't keep saying that because there's literally nothing positive for the Devils right now. there's just absolutely nothing.
You bring up an excellent point with the Devils being one of the toasts of the league. That was the 3rd best team in points. And obviously the Rangers were not far behind them. Up until the last couple games, they could unseed them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go into that first series, because even Boston's looked at moments and even in entire games, I mean, they got embarrassed in game 2 against the Panthers, and that was in Boston.
Yeah.
If you take the 3rd best team in hockey, at least by points, and you sweep them round 1, everything shifts.
Yeah.
All of it shifts. It's no longer, oh, the Boston Bruins are the team to beat. They still are. But now instead of saying, if there was one team that might be able to pull the upset, it might be them, to, oh, that's going to be a battle of 2 titans in the Eastern Final.
Yeah, and I mean, in the playoffs, momentum is one of the most important things. And winning games 1 and 2 in the fashion that they have has been enough of a statement in itself. But if you sweep them, it's like you said, that completely just changes everything. And like I keep saying, if it were, let's say we're playing the Bruins right now,
mm-hmm.
I would be terrified of saying the wrong thing.
Yeah,
I would be terrified. But it's when you look at these lineups and you look about how panicked the Devils are right now, and you look at the past 2 games and the complete gap between these 2 teams, the only way you even lose a game is if it's your fault, is if you just lay an egg. So that's the point I'm trying to bring home here, is just if you keep playing the way you have been, this shouldn't be close. Obviously, I'd expect maybe an even strength goal from the Devils here, maybe, but like other than that, I would be shocked if you let them score like 3 or 4 on either one of these games while you're at MSG. If that happens, that would just tell me the Rangers have completely broken down defensively. And that, like I said before, that's the only way the Devils are going to get back in this series, is if you just let their top guys have as much time and space as they've had in the regular season. That's the only way. So if you keep shutting that down, and not to mention the point that I brought up before, you can match up whoever you want against Jack Hughes now, and you've already shut him down. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, just don't let him get a million breakaways a game, and you win. That it seems pretty simple. It really does. So
that's a great plan. I hope they implement that.
That's the only way that the Devils are going to blow this thing open. That's the only way that they've been able to score goals all season. That's the only way. And I'm interested to see how they try to adjust to the Rangers power play, because the first Rangers power play unit has been unstoppable for them, and they haven't even needed to worry about the second Rangers power play unit yet, which is good in itself. So this is just the most lopsided series in terms of momentum I have been a part of so far. So in my Rangers fandom, this is the most momentum they have had after 2 games ever. So I would just be completely dumbfounded and disappointed if this isn't over by Monday, to be honest.
Yeah. I'll say a couple things to go with that. This is the only series that currently it's not either tied or the team that is losing the series still has won a game. Every other series is either 2-1 or 1-1. This is the only one that still has the possibility of a sweep. You mentioned how good the power play is. If you put 2 men on Kreider, which might be what you need to do at this point, you have 2-on-4 for Kane, Zibanejad,
Yeah,
Panarin, and Fox.
and it's unbelievable because if that's what you decide to do, then you screen the goalie who's making his playoff debut in Madison Square Garden down 0-2. Like there's no way for them to combat this right now. There just isn't.
Also, can you imagine a screened goaltender with 3 men in front, with 3 of probably the top 20 shooters currently in the league?
Yeah, like
with accuracy.
And the reason that Kreider is so good at what he does is because like I just said, you can't really try to tie him up because then you just completely screened your goalie against some of the best shooters on the planet. So you can't. And then if you do that, 3 guys are just wide open for Adam Fox to pass to, and it's probably going in the back of the net.
I mean, you want to give Patrick Kane time and space with the puck and be able to move on a screened goaltender. Is that the decision you want to make?
The other thing that's somewhat interesting to me is it seems like the Rangers were almost like trying not to score on the power play, so that teams wouldn't have film to go off for the playoffs because it looks completely different right now. It really looks like that. Like I've said a couple times that I wasn't necessarily happy with the power play, and I would have rather Tarasenko there. Just because they weren't performing. It wasn't a slight against Patrick Kane. I just wanted to see it get switched up in hopes that it would, the power play would catch fire in time for the playoffs. But it seems like they just knew this was going to happen all along, and they were just like, yeah, let's just like try not to score so that the Devils don't know what to do, because that's the only thing I can think of. Because the Devils have no answer for the Rangers when they get set up on the power play. The second that the Rangers are set up with Adam Fox with the puck at the point, it's already over. That's how it's been every single time so far.
Also, the praise, it's not that we're not praising the second power play unit. I don't think they've been on the ice.
Yeah, they haven't even gotten the chance.
And it's not even just that it's not even that the first unit scoring 10 seconds into a power play. The sustained zone time. They can't get the puck out. And even when they do, it's maybe to center ice at most, and then they just carry right back in and continue doing whatever they feel like.
I think obviously we already knew that Igor could do this, but he is the best passer out of the goalies on the planet, and that I think is one of the most underrated weapons for the power play. Because let's say obviously it's gonna, get cleared out at some point. The fact that you have Igor that could just immediately shoot it up to somebody within 3 seconds of it being cleared out is something that no other team has. So that makes it tough on the Devils as well, because you mentioned the sustained zone time for the Rangers on the power play. Once you do end up clearing it out, it's right back in your zone within, no joke, 3 seconds. Like, it doesn't take long for Igor to get it back up the ice. And that is a weapon that no other team has. So it's gonna be tough for the Devils, man. Like I'm interested to see the adjustments they do make on the penalty kill, but I don't think any of them are gonna work. I really don't. And I keep saying this. I wouldn't be saying all of this if I wasn't 100% confident in this team right now. I don't see how you couldn't be, because everything is going their way right now. They have the experience. They have the better lineup. They have the better goalie. They have home ice right now, and they're up 2-0. Like I said, if they were playing, the Boston Bruins, I would not be saying any of this. But it's just, I don't see how this isn't over Monday unless the Rangers shoot themselves in the foot. I don't see how this isn't a complete, dominating sweep right now. The momentum could not be any more in the Rangers' favor at the moment.
I mean, you've hit it right on the head. I want to give one other praise around the team. You mentioned the defense looking fantastic and being, again, just wonderful. The forwards, defensively, have not made mistakes. Yeah. They have not been caught lacking. They have not... And, again, the fourth line hasn't been offensively noticeable, but they definitely haven't been defensively noticeable either. They're doing exactly what you want a fourth line to do.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
that's them being able to match up what they want against your fourth line, and they've got nothing.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
The kids line.
Ruff tried throwing out Jack Hughes against the fourth line a few times, and you saw Jack Hughes literally slam his stick on the ice in frustration when that happened. So now that the Rangers can pick who they want up against him, I like I said, I don't see how this isn't over Monday. I can't see a scenario where that's the case.
But, and I was critical of it back before the trade happened, and I don't think I've looked as dumb as this. I was like, oh, if you bring in Kane, you're gonna get, he's offensively talented, but what about his defense? Was it Bratt alive on that goal?
Oh my, yeah.
I think that was Bratt.
I believe so. Yeah.
That was, everyone has done.
Speaking of Patrick Kane, he's done that a few times in this series. It hasn't led to a goal all the time, but he's made quite a few defensive plays that have led to odd man rushes the other way.
Yeah.
And when that Kane trade happened, obviously I was in support of it from the jump, but I didn't expect him to do that because that's the narrative that has been painted around him. Now, the main reason I wanted Patrick Kane is because you saw last year at the deadline, they brought in guys who were obviously good players, but they're not game changers. So my point of view was like, if you're cool with bringing in Frank Vetrano, who has no defensive ability, then why wouldn't you be okay with bringing in Patrick Kane? And it just seems like now that whole mindset is just gone because he has been all over the ice in his own end. And obviously on the power play, he's been the weapon we've expected him to be. The passes are beautiful. And Tarasenko, that shot is just, I mean, that is why he's been one of the best playoff performers over the past decade, because he has that game-changing shot where he's just going to throw it on, and if it gets tipped, it's over. And obviously, if he has a clear shot, there's a good chance of him scoring. But when he just throws it at the net with that, hard wrist shot that he has, it's going to go off of somebody. And when you're playing against average goalies, it's just going to work every time. So, like I said, I couldn't feel any more confident in this team. It's been a lot of the same that we've been saying, through this whole episode, but there's not really anything crazy to say. Like, there's not
there
much
isn't
more
much
to
of a
be
narrative
said.
through 2 games.
Yeah, it's just been completely shocking what we've seen from this team, and I don't have too much more to say other than just go for the kill at home and just sweep them and just hope that the Isles Kane series goes 6 or 7 and you're just rested and you're at the most confident you've ever been playing against a team either way that you're better than, and you're more rested than them. This is shaping up to be the best start that we could have asked for. It already is, and they just got to keep it going. They just have to.
It's a matter of you have them on the ground. You once again have your foot on their throat. Don't pull a Tampa. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You have them exactly where you want them. You cannot. I don't mean that in a sense of there's no possible way. I'm saying you cannot. You can't screw this up now. You've got to just. You have it. You have it.
Yeah.
There's
it's in their hands right now. It's in their hands right now. They're playing game 3 at home tonight. They play game 4 at home on Monday. Just close it off. You have no reason not to.
You have everything going for you. You have all the momentum. You get to pick your lineups. You're at home, and the king himself, John Bronte, will be singing the national anthem. There's no way.
Oh yeah,
there's no way.
That in itself makes it more over than anything else.
Yeah.
But I would bet money that Brian Dable is going to be at the game tonight. Because what else better could he be doing? And he is undefeated at Rangers games. So come on. Like, oh man, it would have been very arrogant to say Rangers in 4 before the series started. But at this current moment in time, there's no reason for them not to sweep them. There's absolutely no reason for them not to.
It would have been arrogant to begin with. At this point, it just seems ignorant to say anything but that.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, oh man, it's currently 5:41. We
Yep.
got a few more hours to go, and
Oh,
it's just,
please.
and considering that we don't know the Devils lineup
Yeah.
right now, so I mean they shook everything around this morning with their lines, and oh man, it's just I just couldn't feel any more confident right now. So I guess
I
you know
think.
I've said my piece. I
Yeah.
don't know if you have anything else to say, but
I think I'm good
I
as well.
guess the next episode would be Tuesday, and
Yeah, Tuesday or
like I said,
thereabouts.
hopefully it's over by then.
Oh,
There's no reason for it not to be.
oh, please. It.
Oh man. So yeah, we'll see what
Yeah.
happens. That's pretty much all I have to say. So
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in and listening to the 6th episode of the Rangers Game Plan podcast. We will be here at some point after Game 4 to talk about, hopefully, the second round.
Yeah.
I really hope so. But
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Until next time, thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please consider to like and subscribe. And as always, go Rangers.
Yep. Go Rangers, guys. Let's keep it rolling.